Good afternoon. Good afternoon. I've got something here. The grade 9s asked me to, some of the learners who are doing grade 9, they asked me to cover also geography for grade 9. So I'm just going to look at this concept of physical weathering. This is the only one that I'm going to do now. Then I'll upload others as with time. Okay. So here is a question. This is a question paper. Gauteng Province, Ekurhuleni North District, November, exam 2019. Okay. So I'm only going to focus on this question 2. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do only question 2. The diagram below illustrates physical weathering. The diagram below illustrates physical weathering. Okay, physical weathering. So when it comes to physical weathering, the first thing that you need to know is what is weathering. Weathering is the breaking down of rocks into smaller pieces. So it is the breaking down, okay? Breaking down of rocks into smaller pieces, okay, by physical forces. Okay, the breaking down of rocks into smaller pieces mostly by physical forces. We're going to get into detail with what these physical forces are. So the breaking down of rocks into smaller pieces by physical forces, that's what physical weathering is all about. So if you look at the diagram now, let's try to analyze the diagram, then we move on to look at the question. So what is happening when it comes to physical weathering? Of course, what comes to your mind when you see the water seepage and the ice, the process that comes to your mind is frost shattering. Frost shattering. Okay. So what happens is you have to highlight under which conditions do we have frost shattering. Number 1, it has to be high altitudes. High altitudes where temperatures can go, okay, below 0 degrees Celsius, because you can see the water that has actually seeped into the joints. Now it has frozen, you can see now. So number 1, it has to be within the high altitude where temperatures can go below 0 degrees Celsius. Okay, so what happens is now is the water seeps into the joints of the rock. Okay, then when the temperature drops now below 0 degrees Celsius, which means the water that has seeped into the joints, it exerts pressure on the rock. Okay, it exerts what? Pressure on the rock. This is what we are seeing here. So this rock now will be subjected to constant thawing and freezing. And this is what weakens the rock, resulting in the breaking up of this rock, which we call weathering. So frost shattering, this is when water seeps into the joints of the rock. When water seeps into the joints of the rock, remember this is in high altitudes where temperatures can go below 0 degrees Celsius. So which means when it freezes, it exerts pressure on the rock. When it exerts pressure on the rock, at some point it thaws. Okay, which means it sort of melts. So it freezes, it melts, it freezes, it melts. So constant freezing and thawing over a long period of time is what will break the rock, because when it freezes, obviously, it puts pressure, okay? When it thaws, of course, it also releases that pressure, okay? So constant freezing and thawing over a long period of time is what results in the breaking of this rock, what that we have here in the finals, which means here it seeps, the temperatures drop below 0 degrees Celsius, so it freezes and thawing, freezing and thawing over a very long period of time, which actually result in the breaking down of the rock. That is frost shattering. Some call it freeze-thaw process. Some call it the freeze-thaw process. Freeze-thaw process. That's what some also call it, freeze-thaw process, but we call it as frost shattering. That's what happens. Let's go through the question. Name the type of physical weathering that occurs in the above diagram. So we have said that it's what? It's frost shattering. It's called what? Frost shattering. Okay, that is what is happening here. That is frost shattering, which means water seeps into the joints of the rock. Then This is in high altitudes. When temperatures goes below 0 degrees, it freezes, okay? So constant freezing and thawing is what causes the rock to break into smaller pieces, which is part of physical weathering. So it's the frost shattering, okay? Explain how the physical weathering you measured in question 2.1 occurs. This is what I was explaining now, that water seeps into the joints of the rock. When it is seeped into the joints of the rock, when temperature changes, remember this is supposed to be in high altitudes, okay? Remember, the higher you go, the cooler it becomes. The higher you go, the cooler it becomes, which means in high altitudes, the temperatures, they are very low. They can even go below 0 degrees Celsius. So what will happen is now, when the water freezes, when it goes below 0 degrees Celsius, which means it freezes, it exerts pressure on the rock, okay? Because now it's frozen, it occupies more space. That's what is happening. So constant freezing and thawing is what weakens the rock, result in the breaking down of rocks. That is frost shattering, okay? Then you get your marks. You have given explanation. Let's move on to the next one. The next one you can see here. This is another process also of physical weathering. We are now talking about what we call exfoliation. We are talking what we call exfoliation. Exfoliation, that's another one. So this normally happens in arid areas like in deserts. So we are saying now the rock, okay, is exposed to high temperatures. So when it's exposed to high temperatures, what happens is it expands. And when the temperature drops, what happens? It contracts. I'll give an example. Think of a solid and a liquid surface, okay? Think of the land and the sea. What happens when you look at the land? You'd find that the land, it absorbs heat at a faster rate. Okay, it absorbs heat at a faster rate, and it also loses heat very fast. That's what happens in anything that is solid. In this instance, we are talking about the land. So it absorbs heat very fast and it loses heat very fast as well. But when you compare it with water now, what happens with water is transferred to greater depth, that is deep underground, which means the water surfaces, it takes time to absorb. And it also takes time to release. Okay, so since we are talking about a solid rock, what happens is this rock is subjected to high temperatures during the day. So when there are higher temperatures during the day, so we are saying higher temperatures, what happens? It expands. Higher temperatures, it expands. Okay, then during the night, obviously, we are saying the low temperatures, what does it do? It causes to contract. Okay, so this rock now is subjected to constant expansion and contraction because the temperature changes. During the day, the temperatures are high, it expands. During the night, the temperature drops, it contracts. So constant expansion and contraction of this rock is what result in the peeling of the rock. Like you can see, it's peeling, it's coming off because there is constant exposition to high and low temperatures, which result in when high temperatures, it expands. When it's low temperatures, what happens? It contracts. So this is what results in the breaking down or peeling of the rock, as you can see, which we call exfoliation. That is exfoliation. That is what we call what? Exfoliation, the constant exposition of the rock to constant high and low temperatures. When the temperatures are high, it expands. When the temperatures are low, it contracts. So when it expands and contracts and expands and contracts and expands and it contracts over a long period of time, this is what weakens the rock, resulting in its peeling off, a process which we call exfoliation. Name the type of physical weathering that takes place in the above diagram. So this is exfoliation. We have said that it's normally common in arid areas, okay, like your deserts, okay, arid areas like your deserts, because there the temperatures are high during the day and they are low at night. And since this is a solid surface, it actually absorbs heat very fast, but it's not transferred deep into the core of the rock, but it's just on the surface. So it actually absorbs and lose it very fast. So that's why you can see the peeling off of the rocks that is on the outer part of the rock outcrop that is taking place. So it is because when it's exposed to high temperatures, what does it do? It expands. When the temperature drops, what does it do? It contracts. So constant expansion and contraction of the rock is what results in the peeling of the rock, which is what we call exfoliation. Explain how the physical weathering that I mentioned in 2.1 occurs. This is the same explanation that I was giving now. So grade 9, grade 9s, grade 9s, grade 9s. Thank you so much. This is what you asked for. I've done one video for you. I'll do another one about chemical weathering at some point. I'll also do another one about biological weathering. I'll also do another one about soil erosion, but at the moment, enjoy this one about physical weathering. Thank you.